shaking. Hello, my yarny friends. I'm Emily, and this is my podcast, A Rambling Yarn. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I'm glad to have you. I'm so excited that you are here. And if you're new to my channel, I'm glad you found me. I hope you enjoy sitting and chatting and listening along with me while I talk about what I've got on my needles and coming off my needles and just kind of the ramblings of what summer has brought so far. So why don't you grab yourself a nice cold beverage, because it's hot here, and sit down and chat with me for a few minutes. There's a thunderstorm going on right now. So if you hear some rumbling in the background, that is why. I cannot control the weather, and I cannot always control when I have time to sit down and film. So we are working with what we have right now. It is what it is. Before I get into it, what I am wearing today, this is the Calla top. This is a cropped kind of cap sleeve summer top designed by Pip Pin, who is Megan Nordicker, and I believe her sister. Actually, I don't know if they both design or if it's mostly just Megan, but either way, they're a sister duo with photography and knitted designs, and they are from Canada, and they're just lovely. I've made a few Pip Pin designs, and I really enjoy them a lot. So that's what I'm wearing today, the Calla top. And you can find this, I believe it's in like an ebook sort of deal. I don't know if you can get just the single pattern, but it's like the Rainforest collection. And I used, this yarn it's fingering weight. It's 100% Polworth. This is the only thing I've ever made with Polworth. It was very delightful to work with, and I really liked the texture. And this is the colorway Verdigris, which was dyed by Taylor Earl at Fiber for the People, who is one of my all-time favorite indie yarn dyers. I'm thinking that soon I may ask for your assistance in helping me decide what summer pattern I should make next, because I feel like I'm very lacking in the amount of cute summer knit tops that I have. Pretty much I just have like a lot of sweaters and a whole bunch of socks, and I'm feeling like I'm lacking in that area of my life. So I'm gonna ask for help in a little bit, and you can help me decide what I will be making next to add to my summer knit wardrobe. So I'm not gonna spend very long on these because I feel like I've spent long enough talking about this pair of mittens. I feel like I started them maybe 3 years ago, which is absolutely ridiculous. I made one of them, and then I started the next one, and then I put it down, and I needed those needles for something else, and I couldn't remember what size I was making, couldn't remember which needles I was using. Whole, like, why am I not taking notes? Why am I not putting this on Ravelry? I always think that I'm going to remember every detail of what I am doing, and without fail, I never do. So one of these days I will learn, right? I should learn. But these are the world's Simplest Mittens by Tin Can Knits. I used a single ply and a strand of mohair held together, and they are quite lovely. And I'm so excited that they're finally done, and I can stop talking about them, and I can stop thinking about them, and that I finally can actually wear them when I take my kids to school and it's 12 degrees outside in the morning. This comes in sizes from, I want to say it's like infant or toddler to a large adult. And a lot of the tin can knits patterns you can find, not only do they have a pretty wide range of sizes, but with simple ones like this, you are able to have the option to knit it in a wide array of yarn weight as well, which is really, really handy. So World's Simplest Mitts by Tin Can Knits. All done. I finished those and I decided that I was going to finally start a pair of mittens, another pair, I know, but this time for my mother, they're not for me. And I got the first one done. I am kind of basing the measurements roughly off of the Tin Can Knits pattern, but the numbers were not quite the same as far as stitch count goes. So these are going to be for my mother, who has been waiting for a very long time for a pair of mittens. Once upon a time, before I actually really knew what I was doing, I made her fingerless mitts, and they felt like they took forever, and they probably did, because at that time, like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kind of went with it. And I remember them being in the, is it seed stitch, I think, where you alternate your rows with knits and purls, and you get all these really lovely bumps and texture, and it's just, they were really pretty, and they were white, and it was maybe sport weight yarn, and it was all wool, and then she lost them. Somehow they just kind of disappeared, and I'm not really sure how. But since then, she has been asking for more, or not necessarily asking, but saying, someday I would love for you to make me another pair of mitts or mittens. And I did start that finally. We picked up as she was kind of going out of business. Not going out of business, but she was winding her business down. Lane and Lotus, who I used to have her card up here, but she no longer is a yarn dyer. She moved on to pursue a different career, but she was a Connecticut indie yarn dyer. Some of the most beautiful colorways I have ever seen, always so delicate and vibrant somehow at the same time. I absolutely adored anything she did with the shade of purple. Couldn't get enough. Absolutely amazing. So we found in her fingering, I don't know if she had multiple fingering bases at this point, but it's a twisted, I believe that this colorway was called Harvest Moon. Do not quote me on that. Not that you're going to be able to find this anywhere anyways. But I did finally start her pair of mittens. They've been in this cute little project bag that my neighbor back in Maine actually sewed for me as a birthday gift, I think. And it is just probably one of the cutest bags I have ever owned. I decided I decided to make these mittens with a little bit of a detail. I put a cable along the side, along the edge, and I did somewhere start taking notes on these ones. But now I need to find the notebook that I started taking notes on this pair of mittens. And I am the type of person who I love notebooks. I love notebooks and I love pens, and therefore I have too many and I start using them and then I get distracted and I put it down and then I start something in another one and so on and so forth. And it just continues on. I don't know if you could hear that. Things are rattling on my desk. One modification that I tend to make in my mittens, I believe in the pattern, you decrease evenly around the tip of your fingers to close it up so that at the end you're just like probably decreasing like every two. I prefer to decrease on the sides more like the toe of a sock. I don't know. I prefer the way that it fits and I prefer the way that it looks more than just around and then kind of puckered together at the top. So that's my personal modification. And I sure do hope that I wrote down how many stitches I ended with. I guess we'll find out when I find that notebook. I finished my socks. I think in the last episode I had gotten one down and I was taking a little break between them. I had finished one and I was gonna start something else, kind of, it was the mitten. Finished one sock and I decided I was gonna do that mitten in between. So I finished the mitten and then I finished the second sock. So I now have an FO. These are my socks. I designed, came up with this pattern. I wasn't following a pattern. It was just kind of a modified version of a vanilla, like a ribbed sock. And I did take notes and I am planning on transcribing those notes into a written pattern and hopefully putting them up on Ravelry. I have looked over a lot of the patterns on Ravelry and from a lot of the very popular sock pattern designers, and I haven't found anything that's like exactly like this, and it has a lot of very individual characteristics. Happened to me last time too. I'm gonna flip everybody off. I made this with the cuff, the toe, and the heel are also Lane and Lotus colorways. The heel is from a mini that I was gifted by my bestest, longest, fiberiest friend, Bella, who you can find over at Fiber and Fox. And she knows my love of purples. And therefore is one of my greatest enablers of acquiring purple yarn. I have no idea. I have no idea what that colorway was. But again, moot point because you pretty much can no longer find it unless you're going through maybe somebody's D-stash. The cuff and the toe, also Lane and Lotus. I believe that colorway was Take Me Home. I only know that because I have this color in multiple bases. It's a ribbed sock, but it has just a little bit of extra texture, which just makes it just a little different, enough so that it's just a little bit of added interest. And the main colorway, body, is made of, I believe the colorway was Okanagan Summer, which is dyed by Rose Hill Yarns up in Canada. And this was a very special skein of yarn. It was, might have been the second skein of indie dyed yarn that I ever bought. I got it when I started seriously making socks again, rather than just sludging through a pair of worsted weight socks that somehow managed to take me like a year to make. So when I got back into knitting in a more serious manner, and I started down the sock rabbit hole, this is where I ended up, and I'm so thankful. And because of that, these were actually another pair of socks, which I think if you go back to the second or third episode of the podcast that I ever filmed, you can hear me talk about them. I tried I think I had made them toe up. That was weird. I did not like them. I tried a Fish Lips Kiss heel. I had a lot of opinions on that. I'm still not a huge fan of short row heels. I have tried them multiple times. I will still probably continue to stop and take a break from a heel flap and gusset and try different short row heels. But I have yet to try one and end up being really impressed with how it fits my foot. However, I do have a specific type of heel flap and gusset that always hugs my foot exactly like I want it and need it to. And it might just be one of those things where if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But, it is what it is. So I have my favorite kind of heel flap and gusset. Boop, boop, boop. So we'll see. I'll get this typed up and I'll have maybe a couple of my yarny friends test out this recipe, I suppose you could call it, in their personal sizes, and we'll see what happens. But that is a finished object. And they were fun, and I need to find a good yarn combination to start some more socks, because it's too hot to make mittens. It really is too hot to make socks too. Maybe some shorty socks. That might be it. Speaking of too hot, I'm making a cardigan. I'm making a fluffy wool alpaca. There might be silk in this. I can't remember. I am making a very fluffy, woolly cardigan. It's ridiculous. This is it's more or less done. So what I'm about to show you, this is the mandolin cardigan. It is by Savory Knitting. And I am making it out of, I had a gift card and there was a sale. So I went on Webs, which is actually only about an hour, 45 minutes from where I live. I've yet to actually go there, which is probably a good thing for my wallet, because I don't know what I would do if I was there in person. But I did manage to put a couple of gift cards together that I've gotten over the years. And I found this yarn, which is Moki by Morocco. And it's like one of those ones where I think the nylon is cranked into a tube with the various other fibers kind of throughout, and then stuff is blown into the tube. And I've never used a yarn that is constructed like this before. So that was really fun to work with. It's got a lot of little neps of color, like rainbows in a gray sky, and I really enjoy that. I have been very pleasantly surprised because as I was getting ready to start this, I was very much so intimidated by the perceived intricacy of knitting a lace cardigan with bottom-up construction where you have to graft all your pieces together, mostly because that is something that I have never done before. I've kind of been avoiding something of that construction, not necessarily the lace, but the bottom up and having to sew everything in at the end, because it just seems like a lot of work but you know what? I guess that's part of it. That's part of making something. I am very used to doing top down because it is just what I'm used to, and it's very straightforward, very simple, and you can try your garment on a lot easier as you go, which can account for sizing. So this is my foray, dipping my toes into that. So here we have what I currently have. It's pretty much, I have all of the pieces done. I just need to figure out when I attached the front panels to the back panel, I decided to block the body of this cardigan before proceeding with anything else. That was just my gut feeling. I don't know if it was the right decision. I know that that is typically what I do when I am making circular, well, not even just circular yoke, circular raglan, any top-down garment that I have made. Once I have gotten the yoke done, I typically block that out, and it kind of gives me a better idea of the fit for everything. And then I continue on with the rest. So that's what I did with this, essentially. I basted everything together. Based is probably the wrong word, but I sewed the panels, front panels to the back panel. And from there, I went to my sleeves. And after I did one sleeve, no, I did both sleeves, and I did the band, the like collar band, which is just ribbing, which was very, very meditative. And so here's my perceived problems. They're not really problems, and for one of them, I think I already know what I'm going to do, but for the other problem, I would appreciate feedback and some brainstorming. So the first problem, it really just was me having a moment and being too in the groove. And I should have known better, because I do know better, but I didn't do what I should have. So with the first sleeve that I did, I was knitting it on magic loop in the recommended needle size, because I thankfully get gauge. I am on gauge with Amy Christopher, at least for this and the other pattern of hers that I made, the Felix sweater, which I need to go back to, because I needed to adjust the arm depth, like the yoke depth on that one, for me personally in my body type. But I seem to match gauge with her, which is cool. I love it when that happens. It makes things really easy. So I started out with my first sleeve using magic loop, and wow, I left a lot of a tail on so I could sew these on without having any extra ends, or at least that was the hope. So we'll see. Magic loop until I was done with any of the decreases, or not decreases, until I got to the point where I was done increasing the width. And then on the first sleeve, I switched to a smaller cord. So I ended up with more or less like a 9-inch circumference, give or take. Or maybe it was 16-inch, doesn't matter. I ended up being able to just work continuously in the round without having to go back and forth. And I did that until I finished the whole entire sleeve. And this is it. And I got it to be, I think the measurements for the size I was making was like 18 inches or 16 inches or whatever. I got through the amount of repeats that I needed and the measurement that was given, and it looked great. It was so good. And so then I started the second sleeve, and I did that, and I got to the point where I was done increasing. But by then I was like so excited because I was almost done with both of my sleeves, and I didn't switch to a smaller circumference. I just kept going, magic loop. And then I bound off, and surprise, surprise, this ended up actually being a tighter gauge. The circumference is slightly tighter. My stitches are all tighter. The length of the sleeve is just a little bit shorter. From far off, you wouldn't notice, but if you have them laying next to each other, you can definitely tell. So first I thought maybe I would go back and maybe just, I don't know, go ahead and block them both and see if I could get them to just block out to the same size. But I have a feeling that honestly, I could probably make that work. But the better decision would be to take one or the other, go back to where the increases stop, and then pick it back up so that the technique is the same throughout the whole of both of the sleeves. So, and it's not like it will take long because I think the increases stopped like right around here. So, and that only is like that much of the lace pattern, which isn't much, and there's not a lot. So it's not going to take a long time. It never does, and it's very easy to get into the rhythm of this lace pattern. So that's what I'm going to have to do. Have to, as in I have made up my mind. That is what is going to happen. And I will still block the sleeves unless somebody tells me otherwise. I'm going to block the sleeves before I sew them onto the rest of this cardigan. The other thing was because I blocked the body of the cardigan before I put the collar on. The collar isn't blocked, so it kind of pulls right now. It pulls the edge of the cardigan up. And I'm just trying to trust the instinct that I have that it's probably going to be okay once the collar is all blocked out. I used a modified version of Jenny's incredibly stretchy bind off, and I am wondering, I'm trying not to spin for you guys, I'm so sorry. I've redone the bind off for this band a few times in various needle sizes until I ended up, because it was like a Goldilocks situation. It felt too small, felt too large, and then I was like, oh no, actually sticking with the original needle size, it feels just right. But I'm not 100% sure. Kind of feel like maybe I need to rip it out one more time, go up one needle size, so that just to accommodate any stretching that happens during blocking, if that makes sense. Like I think it's because I am worried that the ribbing itself will stretch beautifully and block out, but then the bind off is just, because of the smaller needle size that I have on there, will not have quite enough give, and it will still kind of be a little too rigid. Does that make sense? So my question is, what do you think? Should I rip this binding out one more time and redo it with just maybe one size needle up? Or maybe instead of doing the modified version, which is really to only do about half of the stitches with the extra yarn over, maybe do all of the stitches in the original needle size with the extra yarn over. So it's not like a half stretchy, but a full stretchy bind off. Decisions. I will try it on really quickly for you. Knits on knits. So here, this is, see how it, I mean, obviously it's going to pull up because I'm hearing a lot of scrambling out there. I better hurry. I'm hearing, I don't know, because it's not blocked, but I don't know, maybe it will be fine once I get it. I don't know. Here it is. The most awkward try-on ever. I think it's funny because these won't stay up because they're not connected yet. I'm very excited to... It's like those weird... It's like those weird shirts where it's like your shoulders are cut out. Oh my goodness, this the air conditioner is off, so pardon me while... Oh wait, I don't have... Thoughts? Help? Just made it more complicated for myself. It's very cozy, it's very squishy. I just broke into a sixth one just for the band. So I may be able to squeeze some sort of pullover from my remnants. We shall see. Oh my goodness. So many yarn tails. Ooh. Last week, my little family went on vacation with my husband's side of the family, and I was lent a book by my sister. People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I've never read any of her other books. This is my first Emily Henry novel, and so far it is absolutely adorable. It is a contemporary romance, and it is really sweet so far, and I'm very invested in this relationship that has been built really, really well. Her dialogue is really witty and very natural, so I don't feel like I'm just kind of reading a formulaic script, which those bug me to no end. It falls under the trope of friends to lovers, which may not be for everybody. I am a little biasedly attached to that trope, given as that would be what my husband and I actually fall under if he were to write our story down into a book, which is kind of funny. I'm thinking that I probably will be able to finish this by the end of this week. I'm actually surprised that during all of that, I got about halfway through, which for mothering 3 small kids on vacation at the beach, I feel personally very accomplished for that. I think it also speaks to her writing is very easy to read, and I don't mean that in like oh, it's really simple. It's just like it flows so easily that I have my eyeballs just gobbled this up, and it was fantastic. And I'm kind of sitting at the edge of my seat as we get to a very tense and slightly awkward part in this couple's relationship. It's giving me a little bit of anxiety, like secondhand embarrassment, and I really am excited to see how this turns out. So I would recommend People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, and once I finish this, I will probably be borrowing the other ones from my sister as well, if not just simply buying them, because this has been absolutely delightful. That is all I have for you today. I am being summoned by my 19-month-old. So thank you for sticking with me. This is actually, as far as that cardigan goes, this is the 3rd time I have filmed this due to my camera overheating and then my memory card running out of space. So I am ready to sign off. Thank you for hanging with me. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, come hang out with me again, and enjoy the rest of your summer. I will see you again on another episode of A Rambling Yarn. Goodbye, my friends.